Hey everybody, this is part 3 of the pumpkins and florals of pumpkins and sunflowers. I am starting the sunflowers, and you can see I'm just getting the dark colors in the backgrounds so you can build those layers up to brighter colors. And then we're gonna add some palette knife texture to those as well. So I started with a dark, like burnt umber, and I'm adding yellow ochre and cadmium yellow to it, and I do have some red oxide that I'm tinting that with, because if you really look at things, like even snow, guys, it's not just white. Everything reflects the things around it. So I'm gonna keep working on this. Some of these in the background I do want darker, but I'm going to bring some of that red oxide in. A little bit more. Just to each one. Like I said, you're just building and building. You just keep building, and I'm going to bring that red oxide to the bottom sides of some of these petals, because that is probably going to be the darker side, and red oxide is darker than what I'm going to end up using the brighter yellow eventually for the last, as I build layers, that's probably going to be the last layer, but it's going to be brighter than this red oxide. But it really gives it a very nice color. It's called red oxide, and I'm just going to keep adding it here and there, just going around the flowers, bring those petals through. We're just building and building layers. These I might bring that out to the tip a little bit more. The ones in the background, I'm just going to maybe tip it with that red oxide. Sorry I can't get my camera closer. I tried to zoom in and it's not working, but it's par for the course of what's been going on tonight. I tried to do a dual live with a friend of mine and things were not working out. 2 birds flew at me in the screen in my garage. One fell out of a tree. I mean, okay, retro and Mercury in retrograde. Wow, you got some cray stuff going on there. It's just been weird. And I'm going to chalk it up to that's what's going on, and just keep moving on. Just keep moving on. I really love this red oxide. I am loving this. So, okay, I'm getting carried away on this side. I got to build these other ones up over here. First of all, I'm going to mix a little bit of that red oxide with some burnt umber and get a darker side to those petals. And the ones in the background are going to be darker as well. Always watch for your light source. Hope you guys can see this. Watch your light source, because that's really what's going to make sense to people. That's what really is going to bring that eye in, because if you have a petal, let's say you have this petal that's dark on the bottom, but your next one is dark on top, it just doesn't make sense, and your eye is going to get confused. So I'm just going to keep bringing in those darker ones. Okay, and actually darken up that center. And let's darken up some of this stuff here and fill in those gaps that you see that don't make sense here. So right beside that retrograde, right beside that red oxide, I'm bringing back in some more of that burnt umber. And I'm filling in some of those gaps that you see the blue behind, or the background in. You need to cover that up, fill that in a little bit more. I may have to set this back down on the easel. Alright, so now I'm going to bring in some of that red oxide to these over here, now that I have those that darker side in. You guys see, am I holding it okay? Because the red oxide over top of that burnt umber, I mean, it is an awesome color together. Great color combo. Great fall color combo. I mean, it just makes it pop, and it just gives it that warm, that very warm color, just that warm touch. I'm just going to bring a little bit more into it to the centers. And there's one here. All right. So now I'm going to keep working them. Now I'm going to go to a combination of I'm just going to keep getting brighter and lighter as I come out. So let's start with I want to see what yellow ochre and red oxide looks like. I'm not fond of that because it kind of dulled it down. It kind of really made it flat. So let's go ahead and let's try yellow ochre and cadmium yellow. Because it's not bright, but yet it's lighter than the ochre. And I'm bringing it in to the tips and to the top side, or what's going to be kind of lighter in these petals. Filling them in a little bit more. It just keeps giving it more depth. The more layers you add, the more colors you add. And don't worry, if something looks a little flat or blended in, we can always bring in some white to that cadmium yellow to really make it stand out. So. Keep working on. Now I want to come back in and get rid of these little blue. I mean, it's not bad, but I'm not fond of it. I don't like the background showing a lot. I mean, some of it is okay, but And that only adds to the color of the flower. So actually, I'm gonna come in with some burnt umber. Actually, I'm gonna use a different brush because that one is too round. So I'm gonna grab my palette and a flat brush or a filbert or some flat brush. I may have to use a filbert. I don't have a flat brush. Alright, I'm going to use a filbert. I'm going to dampen it up before I go in. So I'm going to start at the base of that petal. Let me show you on a plate. So this is the shape of the petal. And this is the center. So I'm going to start at the base of that petal and bring it up to one side. Base the petal, bring it up that one side. That's what I'm doing right now. So it will, and that's going to help fill in a little bit of that background that's showing through. And make sure that you're coming up on the dark side and not your highlight side. Because like I said, your eye will get confused and not sure what it's looking at. So okay, that's looking better. It is looking better, so. I'm just going around to each flower here, or flower petal, trying to fill that in and get rid of that blue. You know, it's okay if some of that shows through, but I feel there's just too much. So and of course, I'm just keep creating depth. Sounds like a busy Friday night. Okay, it's looking really good. So now I think I'm going to go to the lighter color. the, I'm going to add in some cadmium yellow with yellow ochre. So I see I'm going to have to bring in a little bit of a vine, or not vine, but part of that stem and the base of that flower. Okay, so let's go ahead and work with the yellow ochre. I'm going to maybe even add a little bit of fluorescent to even brighten that up just a little bit. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's subtle. It was actually a subtle difference. You thought that fluorescent would really stand out, but it really is not. It's blending nicely. So you know, all these layers I'm adding is going to contribute to the final palette knife textures. So the more and more you add, the more and more you build, the more and more your painting comes to life. This front flower is really I'm really liking how this is turning out. So, sorry, had a tickle. So I need these here petals to really stand out because they're folded forward. And they're catching the light there a lot. So let's go ahead and add this color to this. I really like the touch that the fluorescent gives. Alright, I'm going to keep going around to the other flowers and keep building them with this fluorescent combination. Okay, now this one. I'm hitting the tip and the one side, so you can see that one petal coming forward as that light hits it. So I think we're doing pretty good. So I think we have this one left. We should be able to, well, we'll see when we get this done. So I think I need to start building up the centers of these flowers. Alright, I see some more background I need to cover in. right here. All right, it's looking really good, guys. Okay. I'm just going to keep building this up, guys. I'm going to bring this in closer so you can see them. Should have my light on. Let me turn my light on. Sorry about that. Now you can see it better. There we go. That helps, doesn't it? I apologize. Okay, let's work on those center, the centers. And then I think we're going to do one more bright layer, and that's going to be with the cadmium yellow, the fluorescent, and white. Okay. I'm not going to do a whole lot to the center. I just want to give it a highlight and a low light. Alright, now I want to actually add a little bit of, I'm not sure if I like that fluorescent on that center. So I'm going to go back to cadmium yellow, burnt umber, kind of cover that up a little bit, just go over it. Not much. Okay. There, I like that. That's more of a muted color. It is burnt umber and cadmium yellow. Now I'm going to use, I'm going to go darker and use burnt umber. Let's get the center of this a little darker. And I can actually add some black to this. And we can darken some of that up. Might be losing my center over here a little bit, so I'm going to go darken that up again. I can probably come back and get some highlights in there in a little bit. But I'm really liking how these are looking, so looks pretty good. Alright. Guys, I think we're going to let that build up and dry. And then we'll come back for part 4 to add in some more palette knife texture to the flowers, okay? But that's what we have so far, guys. stay tuned to part 4.